Half Shell Oyster House offers happy hour at the bar and throughout the restaurant every day from 3 to 6 p.m. Happy hour includes $2 off all glasses of wine, liquor, martinis, mixed drinks, and draft beer, $2.50 on all domestic bottled beer, and $3.50 on all craft bottled beer. So come on out to Half Shell Oyster House, located at 115 Lower Park Cove, Suite 105, Flowood, Mississippi 39232, or you can give them a call at 769-257-7586. And hey, tell them Sonia sent you.
She say sports. She say sports. She say sports. She say sports.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia, and welcome back to She Say Sports and our segment Legends of the Sipp. I have with me again my co-host Brian Wanky Adams. Rod is not with us again today. It's gonna happen. I promise. He's a part of this show. But we have a true Mississippi legend, two-time NBA champion, inducted into the 2013 JSU Hall of Fame, inducted into the 2021 Mississippi Hall of Fame, a product of JPS, Murrah High School, my brother, Lindsey Hunter. Hey, Lindsey, how are you?
Good. How y'all doing?
Good. So did y'all enjoy your Easter?
Yes, so far I'm enjoying it, watching a lot of good basketball.
Oh, you didn't? Did y'all wear y'all Easter suits, little seersucker short outfits?
No, I'm graduated past that now.
What about you, Wank?
Nah, I just what I got on right now.
Right.
Well, hey, he said come as you are. That's all right. So Lindsey, this is not your first time coming on the show. You came on the show once before when I was just audio. So I asked you this question and I have to ask you again, but I already kind of know the answer. So I want you to kind of elaborate. I asked you, how did you fall in love with basketball? But that was not your first love. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And Sonia, I told you this story. Football was my first love, actually. I loved football. I loved playing wide receiver. I thought I was Lynn Swan. and growing up in Mississippi, football was everything here.
Right.
It kind of still is. Basketball has really evolved and got a lot of more notoriety. But when we were younger, it was all football. If you didn't play football, every other sport was secondary.
Right.
But I was one of those kids who was kind of a late bloomer, so I was really small and kind of got looked over football wise, and it kind of pushed me to basketball. And I started playing basketball, and man, from the first time at Hardy Middle School, I started playing, and I fell in love with the game. And I think I fell in love with the game in its purest form because I didn't really think about like being a pro. I admired those guys, but I really loved the enjoyment of like getting better and going to the gym and being able to do certain things. And that's what kind of pushed me to be as successful as I was.
That's awesome. And a lot of people don't know that. It's just, because you immediately think, oh, he was in NBA, that was his first love. And when you told me that really, like, I was shocked. I was really, really shocked. So fast forward to Murrah, and you and James Robinson, your friend, y'all helped lead Murrah to a Class 5A state championship in a 64-58 win against Grenada. What do you remember most about that game, and when did you realize you were part of something special at Murrah?
Well, when I first got to Murrah, it was special. I think my 10th grade year, I was on a team. We didn't play as young guys because our teams were so loaded. But we were on a team that went 41-1, which led by Steve Galloway, Dietrich Johnson, Navin Hamilton, Deborah Galloway, Joe Jackson,
Wow.
Dwayne Stevenson. You remember those names?
I remember those names. Yeah.
Those were kind of our big brothers, and we practiced with them every day. We learned from them. They taught us a lot. And watching those guys win 41 games, and the only game they lost at the buzzer.
Wow.
I mean, being in that type of environment really showed you what it took to be great as a team. And those were the standards that we were held to. So, we always thought that was the greatest basketball team, high school basketball team we ever saw. And we could never, no matter how much talent we got, we could never measure up to those guys. So at Murrah, we always was like, look, it was an uphill battle for us. No matter how good we were, no matter the championships we won, that 41-1 team was by far the best high school team I'd ever seen.
Wow. So when they would come and watch y'all play, what was there nervousness, or you were feeling proud, like, wow, they came back to check us out, or how did that feel?
It made you feel good because those were your older brothers, and the things that they taught you, they're actually seeing us, kind of fulfill the things that we went through in practice. I'll never forget watching Dietrich Johnson guard McMoo.
Yeah.
And watching how he guarded him, I was like, dude, nobody in this country can guard this kid, but Dietrich Johnson, helped us win a state championships by being able to guard him.
Wow.
And I learned that because I knew this is a guy I got to deal with the rest of my high school career. And so I learned a lot from Dietrich. And I don't even think they realized how much they instilled in us because we looked up to them so much.
Right. You mentioned Mahmoud, and James was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I think, Wank, did he say Andre? He said Andre was, you had to sit down, and Andre was getting ready to guard Mahmoud, and you was like, don't say nothing to this dude. And he said something to him, and then I think hit him on the butt or whatever. And how many points, do you remember that?
So James got the story kind of messed up though. It wasn't Andre, because it was Eddie Brown.
Oh.
So okay. Eddie was getting ready to come into the game because I had gotten foul trouble. And I told Eddie, I said, don't say nothing to him, just guard him, don't talk. Eddie went into the game and smacked him on the rear and said, come on, All-American. 14 points later in the span of 2 minutes, I was coming back in the game.
14 minutes.
14 points.
In like 2 minutes.
You told him not to say nothing.
I was like, don't say nothing to this guy. Just go play defense, be solid. He went right in the game and smacked him on the butt and was like, come on, All-American.
I won't say it.
And buddy, what he did exactly what he showed him why he was an All-American. But
wow.
I just remember those battles, and all of the high schools at that time, out of our class, we had 6 pros.
Yep.
Right out of Mississippi.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that, but it was phenomenal basketball.
It was 3
all those pros. Go ahead, Wank. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say it was 3 NBA players in that game. It was you
in that game.
Yep.
Right? It was you, Ryan, and no, it was 4. You, Ryan, Hollywood, and Mahmoud.
Yep.
Right. And think about it. Ryan didn't even play then.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
That's how much talent it was. But you think about it, it was us 3. It was the kids from the coast. What is his name? Antonio Harvey.
Harvey. Yeah.
Laterio Green.
Wow.
And Dale Brown from Pascagoula.
Yeah. The golden time of basketball. I was gonna ask you this. You played for the legendary coach Osmond Jordan, right?
Yep.
How was he as far as X's and O's? Or it was just such and such is the best player, we're gonna get out of his way, play off of him? Or when it came crunch time, how was he, in dissecting the game and drawing up plays and stuff like that?
Well, I think we were drilled so much in practice, especially as the point guard, because we had over 25, 30 plays. And as the point guard, I had to know every single play.
Yeah.
So, and it was no excuse. Like nobody else had to know him, but the point guards did.
Right.
So we were well prepared for any situation. You know, we never went into a game worrying about crunch time, or we knew we were going to get a good shot. You know, we knew we had arguably the best player in the state, you know, most of the time. And those things never bothered us. We always felt like we could overwhelm teams with our pressure, you know, and the way we ran, you know, we ran from the time jump ball to the end of the game. And those were things that we didn't think nobody was prepared for.
Wow. So do you think, well, I know being under Coach Jordan's tutelage, do you think a lot of the stuff that you learned from him helped prepare you for the NBA?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because you got to think about my transition. My transition from high school to college probably was one of the rarest you would ever see. I went from being a pass first point guard in high school, you know, to a number one option in college, you know. So you're talking about a kid that barely averaged double figures as a senior in high school, that finished his college career averaging 20 points a game. Wow. So that was a big jump for me. But and I always was curious when people were scouting me for the next level that didn't really dig back into your past. They didn't know that I was like a pure point guard. They thought I was just a scorer. But I ran the point my whole life. That's all I've ever done. That's what my dad raised me to do. You know, so it would always baffle me when they were like, well, he has to learn how to run the point. And I would look at people and go, what? I don't have to learn how to do anything. You just have to let me play. I know how to do this. I've done this my whole entire life. I became a scorer. You know, I had the ability to score, but I wasn't really asked to do that. So when I got to college, you know, that's when things kind of changed for me.
Wow. You know, speaking of college, you enrolled at Alcorn University for 1 year and became a SWAC Player of the Year. However, you transferred and moved on to JSU, where you were named SWAC Player of the Year, named First Team All SWAC, earned 3 letters in your JSU career, and finished your career at JSU as the second leading scorer in history. That's amazing from somebody who started off playing football and ended up doing all of this. So with your talent, most people thought you were going to probably go to a bigger school or program. However, you chose small SWAC schools. What prompted this decision for you and your family to do this?
Well, if you look at my background and how I was raised, my father took me to every Jackson State football game, every Jackson State basketball game, every Alcorn football game, every Alcorn basketball game. So that's the environment I grew up in. And as a young kid, that sold me on the environment. I fell in love with HBCUs right then and there. And there was, you know, the only thing I you know, of course we all saw, we watched UNLV and we watched all the big time colleges on television.
Right.
But I was more in love with, you know, going to Jackson State and watching Alcorn come to town, and, you know, watching how things, the way the crowds were and the way the people were, that got me. So it was never a matter of me wanting to go anywhere else, because all the schools were on my list were all SWAC schools. And I think there may have been like UAB or somebody like that, but I was, from the beginning, I was like, my dad, we were talking about Southern, Alcorn, Jackson State, you know, those were the schools we were talking about. And I chose Alcorn to go with Coach Dave Whitney. And, you know, from there, the rest, you know, is kind of history.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say, you know, man, just me being, you know, in the metro area in high school, during the time that, man, you were doing your thing and Jackson State was at the top, man. You know, it was a pleasure and a joy, you know, taking them trips to Piney Woods to come watch you play, come watch the rest of those guys, you, Whitfield, Ryan, I think his name, Dave Simmons, you know, all them guys, man. I remember it just like it was yesterday. And just you know, how the crowds were, how live the atmosphere were. You guys, score 100 points. We can go to Popeyes and get the 2-piece.
Oh, that was special to you.
Hey, man. Hey, look, I know one thing for sure, man. When we was watching you play, we was going to get something to eat after the game. Jackson State scoring 100 points. But, man, you set the bar. You set the bar so high, man. You and Al Ford and those guys at Javon Scales at Southern, man. That's what I'm used to seeing. That's what Sonya, used to seeing. That's what a lot of people at that time, were used to seeing. So this is like the things that's going on now, people trying to get it back to that way. That's what we were used to seeing. And man, that right there, man, just watching you play, it was a pleasure. And then it drove me to my decision and, wanting to attend the HBCU and things of that nature.
Right. And it's funny you say that because I look back and I see, I used to watch, the young guys like yourself, and we would all want you guys to come. Man, he needs to come to Jackson State. He needs, and that was our kind of our thing about where we were, what we wanted to see happen.
Right.
And for a guy like you to choose the HBCU, because rightfully you should have followed Kobe right to the NBA, honestly.
Yeah.
Right. I know we don't like to look back on things, but when I saw your ability, there was no reason for you to go to college. Like you should have been in the NBA.
Wow.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
But a lot of times because we don't have that guidance and we don't know, we think, well, I gotta go do, but you were a special talent just as Kobe was.
Right.
But I was glad you went to Alcorn because that was, my first college. And see you lead them back to prominence.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say something that was very important, and we've talked about this a lot. I've talked about it to several of my 1996 classmates, the Shannon Longs, the TJ Billups, Quentin Smith, Mario Blands. Here's the thing: when you were selected number 10 to go, lottery, right? And if the NBA is the end goal, none of us, especially Jackson guys, should have ever got out of Jackson because they're gonna come back and watch us play. They're gonna come back and okay, who the next Lindsey Hunter? But when you blinded by, oh man, you got to play on TV just to make it to the NBA and all that kind of stuff, man. The guidance, a lot of us had both parents, great parents. But a lot of our parents didn't know the business side of that basketball stuff, man. If you don't know, man, it'll eat you alive, man. And like I say, you don't want to look back and say woulda, coulda, shoulda. But we've all talked about that 1996 class, man. What if all of us would have stayed and went to school at Jackson? No disrespect to Alcorn, but like you was a lottery pick. We saw you. Become a lottery pick. So why not stay at Jackson State? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think the biggest part of that is, like you said, not knowing. And this happens today. I've talked to a lot of kids who didn't matter. It won't matter where they go to school.
Right.
Because they can make it from anywhere, but like it's the lack of knowledge, the lack of understanding about, look, I can go here and have a great year in college at a HBCU and still be a lottery pick. Or I can go to Illinois or anywhere else and fit in, and I'm going to stay in school and possibly ruin my chances of being a lottery pick. Right. And a lot of people don't look at it that way. And then it comes down to, who's talking to them about what they want to feel like, hey, I'm on the big stage. And, you still have those situations today.
Lindsey, and we talked about this on the last show, but tell the audience as well as Wanky, when you were interviewed by a reporter and he asked you about how did you feel about the Fab Five and did you want to play with them? Tell them what you said.
Oh man, that was funny. It was I think we were in Hawaii. We were in Hawaii, and I had just scored like 48 against Kansas, and so we should have beat Kansas, but the referee Hightower didn't want us to win, so I'll never forget him. But one of the reporters came up to me and was like, "Man, you could play anywhere. Like, well, would you love to play with the Fab Five?" And I was like, "Oh, sure, if they came to Jackson State." And
Right.
he looked at me and he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, if they came to Jackson State, oh, we'd be awesome. We'd win a national championship."
Wow. Wow.
And I know
Yeah.
that blew his mind because
Oh, totally.
because surely you were about to say, "Oh yeah, I would love to have played with been on their team." No, if they were here,
Right.
that
Right.
says
But think
a
about
lot
it though. Think about it. Imagine Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard at a HBCU. That's the same team. They like it's not like because
Right.
they're somewhere else they wouldn't be good. They would.
Right. Exactly.
They would have taken Jackson State to the national championship game or any HBCU they chose.
Yep.
You know, twice. They did it twice. You know.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like we mentioned before, Lindsey, you were in the 90s and got drafted first round, 10th pick. Social media, the way the world is now with the social media and marketing on social media, it's no telling where these kids can go. And they have to remember, I remember 2 years ago when COVID first came about, and it was a lot of social unrest with George Floyd and everything. And I put on Facebook, I don't know if you even saw this, but I put on there, it's time for our kids to come home. Come home. And it's not saying they can't play at other places. I'm not, because every Black child is not going to come to a HBCU, and that's okay. I want everybody to do well wherever they go. Right. However, my point is, don't just put HBCUs on the back burner. Now there's a lot. How do you feel about all the recognition that HBCUs are getting today?
Well, I think it's well overdue. It's well overdue. HBCUs have thrived long before social media, long before, me and Wayne got there. There were great basketball players.
Audie Norris.
Yeah, Purvis Short. People don't even remember the Short brother. People don't remember a
Yeah.
lot of these great,
Right.
guys that played. Larry Smith at Alcorn, like Machine Gun Kelly. Like there were so many great HBCU basketball players that people forgot about.
Right.
And of course me and Wink and of course you, Sonya, we all know because we lived it. We were historians of the game, and we've watched those guys. And as a youngster, I looked up to watching Tyrone Kidd and all those guys play, Henry Cotton, and I watched those guys.
Yeah.
So I felt like, man, I could be just as good as those guys. And we got to get back to that. We got to get back to our kids growing up in those environments, like bringing them to see and letting them get involved in it. And I thank God my parents, were proactive in that aspect, because they made sure I was at every game, and that really had an impression on me. Like I thought HBCUs were everything. Like you couldn't tell me nothing about no other school, because I was like, oh man, I'm going to watch Jackson State and Alcorn play.
That's amazing. We mentioned about you going into the NBA, and you were drafted by the Detroit Pistons, where you spent the bulk of your 17 years in the league. You also won your first championship with the Pistons and your second with the Lakers. Okay, Lindsey, we got y'all, y'all from Mississippi, y'all done made it to the league, but you got 2 rings, bruh. Did you ever think that would happen?
I don't think it's so hard to win in the NBA if people don't understand how hard it really is. Going through it, when I won with the Lakers and I saw the exhaustion and I felt the mental strain that it took, I was like, this is why you have to try to get like if you can get some generational talent in the NBA,
Yes.
it makes it a little easier, but it's still a grind.
Mhm.
So for what we did in Detroit, because honestly, the closest thing to a generational talent on that Pistons team was Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah.
Now he was a generational talent,
Yeah.
but he was so selfless. Like it didn't matter for him to average 20.
Right.
He just wanted to win. He wanted to win at all costs. All those other things didn't matter to him. But for us to win a championship with that team, now that was special because we didn't really have the guys that everybody considered, max players and all that type of stuff. We had another HBCU product who was our leader, Ben Wallace,
Yeah.
who was an undersized center. Ben is 6'6" at best. So watching that happen and being involved in watching our struggles, our growth, and how we persevered through, that really was more gratifying than anything. And after we won that first one, we were so confident in knowing what it took and knowing how to win. We went back to back and we lost in game 7 to San Antonio.
Mhm.
It kind of like crushed us, like,
Yeah.
because we worked hard and and my boy McDice, my fellow Mississippian, was on that team with me. So we wanted to get McDice a ring so bad, and we fell a little short. But
Right.
we all became brothers, and we all still communicate today, and we have a lifelong bond because of all the things we went through.
Wow. That's
Right.
good.
And man, look, this is gonna be your first time hearing this today from me. And this is what's crazy. And it's not crazy, but not only were you great on the court, but man, off the court, I got a story. So in the history of Mississippi, only 4 players ever been invited to the Michael Jordan camp as college counselors, and you and I are 2 of those players.
Right.
And when I first got to that camp, and the guys that was directing the camp was talking about how, there was a guy here named Lindsey Hunter. Man, he was just so good to these kids, and man, he helped kids cross the street to get to the gym. He helped every kid, he did this, did that, man. I'm telling you, bro. And I was like, man, he from where I'm from. That's my guy.
Right.
But I never ever told you that, man, till the day. But they talked about you at the Michael Jordan camp, and this was like 7-8 years later. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Little things like that.
Yeah.
Man, that makes a lot, man. It's just your character and how you were, as a player and as a person. And my next question would, be for you. Once you made it to the NBA, what was your man, I'm here moment? Was it somebody busting your head or
when you played against Mike? I mean, how was that? Yeah, that's a good question.
I got so many Michael Jordan stories. But I think for me, man.
Or was it? Hey, it could have been their first check. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
Because think about it. I was such a big Isaiah Thomas fan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I was a huge Isaiah, still Isaiah Thomas fan. And when I walked in the gym and Isaiah, still to this day, he calls me little fella. I'm taller than him, but he calls me little fella. He was like, little fella, put your stuff on now. I'm not gonna play tonight now. And I'm looking, because this is my first preseason game. And he was like, you're gonna have to play tonight. And I'm like, ooh. Isaiah's sitting there telling me I'm about, and we were in Houston. I'll never forget, we were in Houston playing the Rockets. And I had like my first preseason game, I had an unbelievable game. Got my first dunk, I just had a great game. And Isaiah came to me after the game, was like, you're gonna be all right, little fella. Just stick with me.
Yeah.
Dude, I call home. I'm like, man, Isaiah, but that for me, that was like my acceptance. Like, man, I do belong here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Wow.
Yep.
That's dope. And I'm glad you said that, because you were drafted at a time when ball was ball, when there were true NBA legends.
Right.
They were amazing. How did you mentally prepare yourself to play against them? And then, to play with legends like Isaiah. How did you mentally prepare yourself?
Well, it was nothing I could have done to mentally prepare because I just had never been there on that level.
Gotcha.
So being there and getting the practice and watch Isaiah and Joe work and just watch how, like, people don't know, like, you see the stories and you see the videos, how tough Isaiah Thomas was. Like, to me, and he'll always be like the greatest point guard in the world. I know Magic is the guy, but for small guys like me, Isaiah will always be the guy.
Right.
Yeah. And for him to be as great as he was, think about it. He never won an MVP. Never won an MVP.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that averaged 20 and 10, like more than on more than one occasion. Right. Finals MVP, but the era he was in that Michael Jordan era where.
Yeah.
Right.
And Larry Bird. See, he was caught in between Larry Bird, Magic, and Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But there's no way that he was walking around and not supposed to be walking away with an MVP. He was that good.
Like, it was amazing.
Oh.
And he was, you mentioned about him being tough. He was first of all, the bad boys, they were the ones that got the Bulls prepared for their back to back. So right. I hated y'all. I hated the Pistons. Oh my God. I wanted to fight. I would cry. My daddy would be like, if you don't go sit down somewhere and stop beating on this wall, because I would be about to lose it. Right. I didn't understand it then, but I get it now. They prepared them to become tough.
Yes.
I mean, Mike had to just he was like, I got to do something different. And he could not get past the Pistons. And
it's funny you say that because you look at, everything evolves, of course. Players get more skilled and all that. Right. But Mike was like pushed to the point where he knew, I got to get up and get in the weight room. I got to do this. I got to do.
Yeah.
I have to really mentally and physically prepare myself to battle these guys.
Right.
And I think, and I don't know but I think AAU has kind of taken that away from us. Where instead of me as a player saying, I got to get better to prepare, well, I'm going to go join these guys.
Yeah, I'm going to go play with these guys. I don't want
oh, wow.
And as a young kid, I remember my father, even in my backyard being a young kid, my father would jump down my throat if I wasn't going after my best friends. He would jump down my throat and say, no, out here, you have no friends. Now, when you get done playing, y'all can go back and be buddies, but out here, no,
Yeah.
And that's how I was raised,
and speaking of friends, Isaiah and Magic, they were friends. They kissed before the games, but they did not mess around on that court. And right. That's the difference with these teams now. They too buddy.
Yeah.
I cannot stand it. I know y'all don't want to say it. I didn't play ball, so I'm gonna say it. I cannot stand that bull crap. I want basketball. I want real games. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, you make a great point, but I think what has kind of tarnished it also is the fact that you could be fighting these guys this year and then you will be on their team the next year.
Right, the next year. Yeah.
And so that kind of changed the dynamics of everything too as well. Because back then, I guarantee you, if you told one of the New York Knicks that they had to go to Chicago and play on their team, they'd probably retire.
Right.
That's like, I'm not doing that.
Right. But that's the mentality back then. Like, no, I'm never going to go play for them dudes. Like, but now it's so different, players are more empowered now, things have just changed. And now you, like I said, you could be on this team fighting these guys. And then next year you're on that team,
Right. Well,
it's bull crap.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, man. We were speaking of generational talent, and just fortunately, man, you played on a Lakers team that had two generational talented guys Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. And, to those young players, basketball players that's out there that'll be watching this show and things of that nature, just talk about my classmate Kobe Bryant and just his work ethic and just how hard he worked. Because, Larry Smith, my mentor, coached Kobe Bryant when him and Rudy T went with the Lakers. And they say the man worked so hard during the season, they went to him and said, "Hey man, you got to tone it down or you're not going to last." But he was willing to do whatever it took to surpass Michael Jordan.
Well,
Wow.
I look at people and I ask every young basketball player, who's your favorite player? I do it on purpose because I want to hear, who they look up to. Because if you look up to this guy, and when they say Kobe's name, I'm like, okay, you look up to Kobe? Oh, cool. Okay, do you have any idea, any clue how hard Kobe works? Like, and as a young guy trying to, make a name for myself in basketball, if I'm looking up to a guy like Kobe Bryant, then that means you have to look up to all aspects of his game, not
That's
just
right.
what you see the finished product, but you have to go do some research. There's plenty of articles out here telling you how hard he worked. I witnessed it. I witnessed it on more than one occasion, and for some people, they can't fathom how a guy can be in the gym as long as Kobe working on certain things. I mean, other than Michael Jordan, he was probably the most fundamentally sound player ever.
Yeah.
But I watched Kobe after I finished working out. I sat there and said, let me watch this guy, see what he is about to do. 2 hours later, this is after he was in the weight room. 2 hours on the court of just repetitive footwork, jump shot, and I'm just like, there's no way he's gonna do this. An hour at that spot, I was like, no way.
It's crazy.
No way.
That's crazy.
But he was
that's your
driven,
job.
man. He was driven. He was driven like no other. And I another story, I was with the Bulls at the end of my career, kind of like a player coach.
I remember this.
And I would always, by habit, I would try to be the first one to the gym. So I'm walking in the gym early. The lights weren't even on all the way. It was just a little section. And I hear a ball bouncing. Who was out here before everybody else? So I walk around. And so Kobe would call me his vet. He was like, "What's up, my vet?" And I was like, "What you doing?" He was like, "I'm getting ready." I'm like, "What?" He's in a full sweat. There's nobody in the arena. Lights not even on. So I go in the locker room and my buddy Pete Myers, our other assistant coach, is in there. I said, "Man, Kobe out there in a full sweat." He was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "We in trouble tonight." Comes out the first quarter, he has 20 in the first.
Wow.
I was like, I knew it though. Like, it's not by chance that this dude is about to torch us.
Yeah.
That's what he does. He, and then when you watch him work, you understand his mentality. Because I think I read an article. One of the assistant coaches was like, "Man, you kind of a butthole, man. Why you want to pass the ball to your teammates? You want to?" And so Kobe was like, "Look, they may say what they want to say about me, but nobody out here outworks me. Ain't nobody in the gym early. Ain't nobody here late.
Yeah.
So why would I pass the ball to one of these guys when I know I just made 1,000?"
Right. Right.
I just made 1,000 from 4 spots. Like, why would I pass the ball from them to them?
Unbelievable.
But that was his mentality, and you can't be mad about that.
Right.
Wow. That's correct. I remember you told me about that, the Chicago story, and it's just, his presence is truly missed. I am the ultimate Michael Jordan fan. I could not stand Kobe, as I respected his game. Don't get me wrong. Right. I respected his game, but I could not. I hated when people said he was better than Mike.
Sonya, like, they were twins.
And I was like, he's doing everything Mike does.
They were twins.
However, when he left the league, Lindsey, I cried. And let me tell you why. Because I knew what we knew as basketball was gone. That was it. It was over. And I followed Vanessa on social media, on Instagram at the time, but when he left the league, I started following him, and I fell in love with Kobe because the same way he was as a basketball player, he was as a family man.
Exactly.
He loved those girls. And I saw it and I was like, look, he was a different person to me. And when he died, it broke my heart because I'm like, he was about to, first of all, he was about to change women's basketball because of his daughter.
Definitely.
I really believe something, and stuff is still into play with women's basketball, but it was going to happen immediately because of baby girl. And it's just, I know you guys, it was tough for y'all, especially who played with him. How was that for you and your teammates when you heard the news?
It was unbelievable. It was, we all were heartbroken, of course. And I just remember receiving calls from teammates.
Yeah.
And we all were just like, man, we got to stay in touch. Like, we got to talk to one another because you just don't know. Tomorrow's not promised.
Right.
It was just such a surreal situation. I remember talking to my mom because my mom had called me first and asked me something about it. And I was like, no way, Mom, what are you talking about? But then when this reports start coming in and I realized I was heartbroken. I was, as everyone was, we were all torn apart, losing someone, not just the basketball player, but just like you said, Sonia, the things that he was doing with women's basketball, with his daughter. I think he was going to do something special. I personally think he was going to even up into the WNBA ranks, start doing things to help, help the sport generate more revenue, I think he was on to that.
Right.
And that's still happening now. But like you said, I think he would have accelerated that.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's sad we lost him, but he left a legacy forever. And I think we'll always remember Kobe from that impact as well as his play.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
Speaking of women's basketball, we're heavily involved in it right now with Donald Driver and Mahmoud and someone from you all's university, Amisha Williams, attended our pro day and was drafted. Man, I know, not only was she elated, but the program, the university, and just being able to meet this kid. She's from the same hometown as Mahmoud, and just to see her name flash across that screen, man, to be real with you, it hasn't even hit me yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, really just happened because, I come from an era where I've seen it happen. You know what I'm saying? It's a shock to, everybody in America, but it's not a shock to me. But, man, when you saw her getting drafted, man, what did you think about that?
Oh, man, I was elated. I was elated because I watched them play LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I saw her battle against the other girl who was really good at LSU.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, for her to hear her name and for everyone to recognize she's from an HBCU and, it's just monumental for not just Jackson State, but all HBCUs to see that there are players that are good enough to be drafted. There are players that are good enough to play on the next level.
Right.
I always say it's not where you go, it's what you do where you at.
That's right.
Exactly.
And I think there'll be a lot more to come.
Yeah. And she went number 25, meaning she one of the top 25 players in America.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, man, that right there is a recruiting tool. It should open up. Yeah, it should open a lot of people's eyes up. And like you say, it's not about where you go, it's about what you do when you get there. And she made her mark, and she goes down in history with you and the Short brothers and Dwayne Whitfield, the guys that got drafted. So that was huge, man.
Yeah. Second female in the SWAC to be drafted in the SWAC, and the sixth to be drafted in a HBCU. Wow. Outstanding. I'm so proud of Amisha Williams Holiday. She's an amazing player, and I wish her well. I'm just.
Me too.
I will. You know, you about to laugh, but I don't really like. I know I do, and I told Wanky this because the girls they be balling. You know, I don't really like chick ball too much. But I'm gonna be watching the Fever because I want to support her. I gotta stop, but I really do. But speaking of SWAC and speaking of parents, you were able to coach your son 3 years, Caleb.
Right.
And it's full circle because he became freshman SWAC player of the year. How did that make you feel?
Well, you know, that's of course that's my baby.
Yeah. Your
And,
twin. Your twin.
I know. And the thing about the young man is, I tell people this all the time. If there's a father-son relationship better than ours, I would love to see it. Because we truly have a special relationship, like no other. Like we have a genuine bond. And we talk about everything, anything. You know, it's such a unique relationship, man. And that's my guy. Like, and of course, seeing him as a baby and watching him grow up and all the things we went through and teaching him basketball, me taking him to Detroit when he was 8 years old, when he said he wanted to play. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go to Detroit. We're going to the city. You know,
right.
I took him to the heart of Detroit, the Roberto Clemente Center.
Wow.
Roberto Clemente Center. That's in the heart of Detroit. Like, that's a tough area. Yeah. So I took him right down there and let him play. Like, okay, you want to play. And from that day forward, he always held his own. Held his own. And I was like, okay, he wants to do it. And watching him go from that to high school, to getting scholarship offers, to playing for me and achieving SWAC Freshman of the Year. I don't know how many father-sons have ever done that, but I know
too many. I've never heard of any.
Right. Yeah. But I'm so proud of him, and I'm still proud of the man he's becoming. Just such a good young man. And I like to thank myself, I guess, but a lot of it is him. He's just a good, genuine person.
Yeah.
And he's a unique guy. From all the kids I've mentored and been around, I'm watching my own son become something that I'm proud of. And for me, that was more gratifying than, you know, him winning an award, just the man that he's becoming. It really makes me feel good to see him become who he's becoming.
And how much of an honor was it for you to coach him?
Oh man, I remember going over his scholarship offers, and when I accepted the job, he came in the room. He was like, "Okay, well that's over," and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Well, we don't have to talk to anybody else. I'm done. I'm going with you."
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, so that made me feel like, okay, I did something right, you know.
Right.
And you know, we just have a great relationship. We have an unbelievable relationship, and he's going to be a great husband to somebody, and a great role model for a lot of people. And he's just a great young man, and I'm really proud of him.
That's awesome. And it says a lot about you as a father, as well as he believed in your ability to coach him, and that says a lot. Yeah. That says a lot about you, my friend. That's awesome. So Lindsey, before we go, Wank, did you have anything else you needed to say?
Nah, we talk a lot.
I know, we'll be all day. So before we go, I play a game called You Can Get With This or You Can Get With That. Mm-hmm. And what that is a way for me, Wank, and the guests to get to know the guests better, the listeners to get to know the guests better. I'm sorry. Okay. I'll ask you a few questions and you choose the one that best fits you, okay?
Okay.
AMG or DJ Quick?
DJ Quick.
Love and basketball or above the rim?
Ooh, oh, man. Oh, that's tough. Love and basketball.
Yes. Okay. I love both of them, but that's
that's tough.
Word with love and basketball.
Yeah, that's tough.
New school guards, Trey Young or John Morant?
Oh. Oh, that's tough.
I love Ja.
I like both of them.
I like both of them, but I love Ja. He is on fire right now.
Yeah, I love. Ooh, that's tough. Do I have to answer that one?
Yes. And no answer is wrong.
I know, but I love both of those guys.
Okay, fine. But if one could edge out one, who would it be?
I don't know. Because you gotta look at Trey Young. The numbers that Trey Young has been putting up is like prime LeBron numbers.
Yeah.
Like that dude is like 40, 15, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Trey is not normal. Now neither is Ja. Ja's not normal either. But I watched Trey Young take his team to the conference finals last year.
Yes, he did.
So, but I would take either one. I'd take either one.
Either one. Wayne, you choose for him. Ja or Trey?
Man, I'm gonna go. I like it explosive, you know.
I knew because he was a high flyer. He was gonna take Ja because that's the same like him. I knew he was gonna take Ja.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Ja.
I'm going with Ja.
Yeah.
Detroit or Los Angeles?
Detroit.
Right.
Just making sure. Would you rather see the future or change the past?
See the future.
And then I'll be kind of nervous to see the future. But then I don't want to go back.
No, I mean, what's the movie? Back to the Future.
Yeah.
If I can see the future, I can do some things.
That's true.
Make some things happen.
Now you got a point. You got a point. I loved all of Back to the Future.
Right.
The Godfather or Scarface?
Scarface.
Say hello to my little friend.
Scarface.
That's my dude.
Right.
This is Easter season, everybody cooking. Some people are not cooking traditional. My family is. Right. Macaroni and cheese or cornbread dressing? What's your favorite side?
Oh, mac and cheese. Mississippi, who ain't gonna pick mac and cheese?
I mean, I like them both. What about you, Wayne?
Look, this is what's crazy. As country as I am, because I was never in the kitchen, right? I didn't know for the longest that dressing was made out of cornbread.
Oh, what?
Bye.
Well, you never watch your mom cook in the kitchen?
Man, I was outside hooping.
You was waiting for it to get ready.
Right.
Hey, I would always walk in there and try to stick my finger in and taste stuff.
But my wife was cooking dressing a couple years ago. I was like, man, dressing made out of cornbread?
What did you think it was made out of?
I don't know.
What, you just found out like recently, like in the last few years?
Like 2 years ago.
What a shame.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Lindsey, you're born in December. Which do you prefer? Christmas or your birthday? Some people don't like their birthdays. So.
Christmas.
Really? Why?
I mean, it's Christmas, I guess. I like seeing everybody celebrate. I like seeing other people,
Right.
I think I get more excited for other people's gifts than myself.
Right. Gotcha. You prefer playing sports or coaching sports?
Oh, now that I'm old, oh my God, Kyrie just hit a 3 to take the lead. With 45 seconds left.
Oh my God.
Hey, Kyrie just hit a 3.
Now,
45 seconds left to take the lead.
How many seconds?
45 seconds left.
Oh my gosh, let's hurry. Okay.
Hey, three ball right in the face of who's that guard him? Marcus Smart. Right in his grill.
Wow. Okay, last question. MJ or Kobe?
MJ. I love Kobe.
Better. I know you love Kobe.
Look, there'll never be another MJ.
Never, ever. That's my boo.
Look, I love LeBron. I think LeBron is phenomenal for basketball because he plays the right way. But LeBron will never be MJ.
Ever. Do you understand me? ever. I'm sick of people. They better stop. He is at home on the couch right now.
You know what? And I don't even argue about it anymore.
I don't
listen to
either.
young people
I don't even-
because
I
everybody
let
has
him
to have. Yeah, everybody has to have their guy. So I understand that.
Right.
But I always have to straighten them out and go, hey, I said that man averaged 30 for his career.
30.2. And look, and I'm gonna say this. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. I was talking to a friend, and they said, you know, he got it from one of the, you know, me and Trey Johnson was talking, and I think he was talking to one of the coaches when he was with the Lakers, and this is the best answer I ever heard. They said the difference between Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron. They said Michael Jordan never had what the heck moments. Even when you know he couldn't beat Detroit, he never looked
He
defeated.
never looked defeated.
Never looked
Never.
defeated.
Now
That's
you
so
got
true.
to
That's,
right
that,
there.
that's the best thing. Hey, we done seen meltdowns from the late great Kobe, and we done seen LeBron meltdown. I ain't never seen Michael Jordan shed it down.
Nope.
Never, ever, ever.
Ever.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Lindsey.
Thanks for having me.
Lindsey, before we go, let the listeners know how they can follow you on social media.
Oh, I'm at OWE Lindsey Hunter on Twitter and the same on Instagram and Facebook.
Say that again.
OWE, outwork everyone.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Outwork
Yep.
Everyone Productions. I'm
Right.
like, look, don't try to sue me. I like that. Wank, tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media as well as information on Driven Basketball. Driven
On
Elite, I'm
Twitter,
sorry.
on Twitter, I'm D Elite B-Ball, and
Oh, Boston just won, hit the buzzer beater.
oh my goodness, yeah,
Oh my gosh.
a buzzer beater.
Yeah,
What?
at the buzzer, they up went 1-1.
Instant classic.
Wow, man.
Oh, they said wait, they're gonna review it.
So they got to review it.
I think it counted though.
Yeah.
Man,
Go ahead.
my fault, Wayne.
Yeah. So on Instagram, Deep Basketball Academy on IG.
Okay. And guys, you can follow me at She Says She Say Sports on Facebook, She Says She Say Sports 23 on Instagram, at She Says She Say 23 on Twitter, and please subscribe to our YouTube page, She Says She Say Sports. Until next time, this is Sonya with She Says She Say Sports and Wanky. Bye.
All right. See you.
All right.
All right.